Hello, hi, it's me. Hello, it's me. Hello, hello, guys. Good evening. Can you hear me now? A big shout out to you, Luca. Guys, please let's go like and subscribe. Thank you so much. You are welcome, welcome in. As we come in, please let's go like. Yeah, please let's like, guys. Let's like if you're here, if you are ready. If you are ready, let's go. Hi, Ak. Please let's like and subscribe. Luca, Luca, where are you going to? Have you like and subscribe? You have not like and subscribe. You're leaving. Hmm? A big shout out to Luca. Okay, okay. Like for me now. Like and subscribe so that you can go sleep. You were the first person here, so that's why I'm shouting you out. Out. Um, a big shout out to, what are you writing? Tung Tung Sahuri Zula Gaming. Is that your name? A big shout out to Foxy. Guys, let's drop our name. If you're just joining, please let's go like. Yeah, let's go like. Thank you. A big shout out to Kian. Big shout out to Lee Epa. A big shout out to Eniola. A big shout out to Ritza. A big shout out to Shani Koi. Okay, Shanik. A big shout out to Mickey. Let's go, guys. Please let's like and subscribe. A big shout out to Mimi. A big shout out to Liek. A big shout out to Leyland. So thank you so much, Shanik. A big shout out to Dimitra. A big shout out to Jay. A big shout out to Cookie. A big shout out to Leo. A big shout out to Dimitra. A big shout out to Monka. A big shout out to Mackenzie. A big shout out to Cookie. Thank you so much. Are you a transgender? No, I'm not. I'm a pure lady. Yeah, I'm a lady. A big shout out to Lucy. Big shout out to Jenny. Belly, thank you so much. A big shout out to Very. Thank you. Please let's go like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Drop your names. Let's give you a shout. A big shout out to John Gronsung. A big shout out to Kali. A big shout out to Precious. I love your braids. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Nicola. I love you so much. I love you too. A big shout out to Kian. A big shout out to Lottie. A big shout out to Lydia. Let's go. A big shout out to Princeton. Happy birthday to your dad. I wish him all the best. A big shout out to Ruby. A big shout out to Ella. A big shout out to Malaika. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Abdullahi. A big shout out to Jamila. Let's go. A big shout out to Lisa. A big shout out to Nelly. A big shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Nelly. Guys, let's go. Please let's like and subscribe. It took you ages, right? No milk. Eh?
It was milk, but the water was too much.
Go and bring milk for me. Take, put it in this cup. A big shout out to Steven. Gerald, put milk in that cup for me. A big shout out to Elena. A big shout out to Mira. Gerald, put that thing on. A big shout out to Maddie. A big shout out to Marcin. A big shout out to Calliope. A big shout out to Tasha. Shout out to Kamashi. Shout out to Nooni. A big shout out to Anastasia. Shout out to Emilia. Shout out to Casino. Shout out to Miran. Shout out to Jana Priya. Shout out to Nora. Guys, please let's go like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Water. I remember you. Shout out to JJ. Are you JJ Okosha? A big shout out to Ellie. A big shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Nakutu. Shout out to Amy. Hi. Shout out to Alicia. Let's go. Shout out to Golly. And I missed you too. Where have you? Hey. Guys, let's go like and subscribe. Shout out to Caliso. Shout out to Big Jeff. Shout out to Mia. You're so cute. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Ariette. A big shout out to Ava. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Miran. A big shout out to Ariette. A big shout out to Janko. A big shout out to Lily. A big shout out to who did your hair. I did it I made it myself. A big shout out to Ima. I braided my hair myself. That's how it look. A big shout out to Taylor. Some of my friends were there because I went live on YouTube when I was braiding it, so they can confirm that. A big shout out to me. A big shout out to Ariette. Yeah, I think I posted it. You can go check the video. Check my videos, you see where I was making it. A big shout out to Fatima. A big shout out to Matthew. A big shout out to Sean. You are the first person. I didn't see that. I love you too. Thank you. A big shout out to Emilia. A big shout out to, please put down your name and be patient with me. I will call your name. Just keep pushing your name back to back, okay? I will see and call your name. A big shout out to Nina. A big shout out to Walu. A big shout out to Kaya. A big shout out to Ariana. A big shout out to Harriet. I love you too, Harriet. A big shout out to Awand. A big shout Clark It, Alice. A big shout out to Asha. A big shout out to Anna. Guys, let's go like and sub. Can we take the like to 25? Let's go. Let's take the like to 25. Thank you. A big shout out to Kristen. A big shout out to Alejandro. A big shout out to Ami. A big shout out to Luke. A big shout out to Lila. A big shout out to Lisa. A big shout out to Yuki. A big shout out to Penelope. A big shout out to Ami. A big shout out to Lululemon. A big shout out to Willow. A big shout out to Bobby. A big shout out to Mate Zell. A big shout out to Nina. Let's go. A big shout out to Amia. A big shout out to Gonale White. A big shout out to Lexi. A big shout out to Christina. A big shout out to Poppy. A big shout out to Amina. A big shout out to Darcy. A big shout out to Daisy. A big shout out to Addison. Shout out to Amina. Shout out to David. A big shout out to Tamara. A big shout out to Emily. A big shout out to Mia. A big shout out to Alexia. A big shout out to Haley. A big shout out to Madison. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Suki. Shout out to Melissa. Shout out to Say. A big shout out to Luke. Let's go. A big shout out to Nora. A big shout out to Alisa. A big shout out to Echo. A big shout out to Maria. Hello, it's me. Yeah, guys, please let's go like and sub. Can we please take the like up to 25? Thank you so much. A big shout out to Leslie Flexa. A big shout out to Trisha. A big shout out to Edith. A big shout out to Olivia. A big shout out to Lexa. A big shout out to Audrey. Hi. A big shout out to Hallie. A big shout out to Esla. Let's go. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Lena. Thank you. A big shout out to Unity. A big shout out to Mexico. A big shout out to Sito. A big shout out to Kaylee. A big shout out to Laura. Let's go. I love you too. Thank you, guys. You beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous names. A big shout out to Leah. A big shout out to Sayen. A big shout out to Rihanna. We have Rihanna in the building. Where is Cardi B? A big shout out to Mariana. Let's go. A big shout out to Cloning. A big shout out to Christina. A big shout out to Katie. Let's go. A big shout out to Grace. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Drop your name back to back. I call you. A big shout out to Amo. A big shout out to Luca. This is my first stream for today. This is my first stream for today. I've been out the house. So this is my first stream, okay? A big shout out to Delilah. A big shout out to Kenza. A big shout out to Alisa. A big shout out to Melly. A big shout out to Unity. I'm fine, thank you. A big shout out to Trisha and you. A big shout out to Tina. A big shout out to Vive. Let's go. A big shout out to Amo. A big shout out to Daniela. A big shout out to Poppy. Who is writing 6-7? 6-7 is gone since 2025. A big shout out to Cassie. A big shout out to Uzaina. How are you doing? I'm fine. And you? A big shout out to Jasmine. A big shout out to Unity. Guys, let's take the like to 30, please. I need three amazing persons to take it to 30. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Catherine. A big shout out to Kai. A big shout out to Van. A big shout out to Letroy. A big shout out to Livy. A big shout out to Sophia. A big shout out to Best P. A big shout out to Jessica. A big shout out to Malika. You are welcome, guys. A big shout out to
Hey,
Johnny.
Zona, for now.
A big shout out to
Nigerian side.
Ima. A big shout out to
Oh, bless
Muntaha.
you.
A big shout out to Jury. A big shout out to Junior.
Because you know the
A
last
big
time
shout out to
when
Random.
me and they talk,
It's your
they talk
birthday.
say,
Happy
okay, see
birthday,
the woman
my
they go come
darling. A big
Lagos.
shout out to
Remember,
Simon.
you understand?
A big
See
shout
the
out
woman they
to
go Lagos, so you give them
Manny.
the papers.
A big shout out
You
to
understand? Make they start them.
Vivian. A big shout out to Louise. A big shout out to Amadeep. Shout out to Kia. Shout out to Simon. Shout out to
She never
Tamanta.
come back to Lagos.
Shout out to
What's the
Mose.
place that they
Shout
ask you,
out
they
to
say how they call the person, they say how far.
Zena. Shout out to
Because see,
Betu. Shout out to
no, because look,
Amira.
you remember say the last one when me and you talk.
Shout out to
When you expect say
Zena.
okay,
Shout out to
12 now.
Sky. Shout out
Una don't
to
communicate, you understand? Say the thing don't even una don't
Marjana.
even do finish the
Shout
thing.
out to David.
Mm,
A big shout out to Louis. I'm your big
mm,
fan. Oh, thank you so much.
mm,
A big shout out to Ava. A big shout out to Vivian. A big shout out to Unity. Yeah,
mm,
guys. Yeah, if you're my big fan, please always
mm,
check on my videos when I post. At least comment, at least like. Yeah, that's how you can support me. And yeah, so please let's go comment, let's go watch, let's go like. Okay. Thank you so much for the love.
mm,
Thank you. Love you, Jacob. Thank you so much, guys. A big shout out to Josie. A big shout out to Mia.
mm,
Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Eri. Shout out to Maya.
mm.
A big shout out to Hazel. Shout
No,
out
no, because
to
if when the matter hard, when they send me the
Jenali.
message,
Shout
they
out
need
to
to say 12.
Win Love. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Rage. Shout out to Mano. Shout out to Rage. Shout out to Tamara. Hi. Shout out to Aminat. Shout out to Haley. Guys, let's go back to back. Drop your name. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to Win Love. Shout out to Hi Mom. Shout out to Aya. Shout out to Arena. Thank you for subbing. Guys, please let's take the like up to 40. Thank you so much. Please let's go. Let's take the like up to 40. A big shout out to Debs. Debstar. A big shout out to Debstar. A big shout out to Prishnam, Shah, Kia. Let's go. A big shout out to Vezil. Please let's go like and sub. Let's go, 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 go. Let's go, 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 go. A big shout out to Mina. A big shout out to One Day. Clark
Hello?
Hits. A big shout out to Evelyn. A big
Okay.
shout out to Sonia.
Oh,
A big shout out
okay.
to
No wahala.
Heidi. A big shout out to
When go talk to
Amelia.
them, because
A big shout
me
out to
I expect say
Telaya. A big shout out to
they must make
iShot.
those that connection
Shout out to
before she come out.
Elwin. A big shout out to Awanda. It's your
As
birthday.
in
Happy
the
birthday
our
to
plan
you.
when me and twins talk, we
A big
say
shout out to
when me and
Zana.
twins talk, say okay, since their Hit anybody.
A
No
big
worry.
shout out to Lily. A big shout out to Ram. A big shout out to Laura.
Uh,
A big shout out to Beth. A big shout out to Nasia. Cheers, guys.
mm,
Please let's like and sub.
no, see,
A big
the,
shout out to
even with that,
Helen.
there's no good point
A
waiting
big
for her
shout
to
out to
go back. Because
Unity.
even if she come back, she's not going to take you
A
back
big shout out
again.
to Samahana.
You understand? She's not going back to Lagos.
Shout out to
So now just to look for how do they
Sky.
send down.
Yeah, thank you so much. A big shout out to Chloe.
If
A big
na
shout out
this
to
they take send and since
Jinty.
the usual Korea for those
Shout
for
out to
Benin there, opposite
Kayla.
Unibe. If you don't reach
Shout
their
out to
houses since,
Latita.
because
Shout out to La
me just
Poo
sent it.
Poo. I'm muted.
I know the place where we're now. You
I'm
know,
sorry.
yeah, you,
I'm sorry, guys.
yes.
A big shout out to Gigi.
And that
Can
house
you hear me
now,
now?
fine house where they will get bar for outside, all those kind of things for outside.
Can you hear me now, guys?
Mm, mm,
A big shout out to Ruby. A big shout out to Sophie.
mm,
A big shout out to
mm,
Hayden. A big shout out to Osha. A big shout out to Mohammed. A big shout out to
mm,
Sassy. A big shout out to Luca. A big shout out
mm.
to Zanna. A big shout out to
Uh,
me. Thank you.
uh,
A big shout out to Alexander.
how many this thing be?
Thanks for subscribing, guys. A
How
big shout out to
many? What's the size of the land?
Sasusuna. A big shout out to
E.
Jaylee. A big shout out to Money. A big shout out to
Ẹ worry now.
Janessa.
For this one,
Chess.
I'll, you get this you get the picture.
A big shout out
I
to
best
Jan.
I best
A big
send
shout
that
out
to
to
me.
Tamara. Shout out to Rose.
Mm.
Shout out to Yasmin. Shout out to
Send
Emily. Shout out to
send that to me. Send
Julius.
that to me.
Shout out to Rose. Shout out to
Okay.
Mimi.
No wahala.
Shout out to Evelyn. Guys, please let's go like and subscribe. Can we take the like up to 60, please? Shout out
Mm.
to Jackson. Shout out to
I know Sana.
Aliyah.
Where
Thank you.
they
You are the best. Thank you
near
so much. Thank you. Shout out to Adrian.
mm.
Yeah, bye, my darling. Thank you. A big shout out to Mimi. Big shout out to
Send that call give me.
Rue.
Maybe I make the first time
A
buying.
big shout out to Elos. You are the best. Thank you. Big shout
Mm.
out to Ruby. I wish I could give you money. Oh my days. Thank you so much
Mm. I better send that to
for
me.
even
Make I
having
see am.
that in mind. A big shout out to Dodi. I know that someday you will do it,
Mm.
so no
Mm.
worries. A big shout out to Ari. Don't worry, God will provide.
That's
Okay,
so
take
now.
your time, no rush. A big shout out to
That's so.
Ashia. A big shout out
Oh,
to
voila.
Susanna.
As I say, I
How
need
long have you been
this
sitting
name.
here? It's just
Area ni.
27
Eh?
minutes.
Area
A
ni.
big
I
shout out
get
to
married.
Ashia. A big shout
Uh,
out to
you know, say you get one way up, way
Dominic.
almost opposite that their road. Almost opposite
A
that
big
road.
shout out to
Just say because they get small issue for
Nina.
that front that time.
Yeah, we are friends. As
That
long
road
as you
where the house
subscribe,
is so.
yeah, it's fine.
You call it
Guys, please let's
there
take
was
the
a land
likes up
almost
to
opposite
20
that road.
to
Because they
60,
get issue
please.
for that land that period.
A big shout out to Domi. A big shout out to Jeff. A big shout out
That road where the house
to
is so where they pass enter
Phoenix. A
almost
big shout out
opposite
to
that road. There was a
Wat.
land where you come
A
they
big
get
shout out to
small issue with that year.
Anna. A big shout out to Kiki. That's me. That's me. A big shout out to
Mm.
Phoenix. A big shout out to Alex. A big shout out to
Uh-huh. I say
Tristan.
I know take on where.
A big shout out to Isel.
Mm.
A big shout out to Specio. A big shout out to
Mm.
Winnie. A big shout out to Lily. A big shout out to Untokozo. A big
Gigi.
shout out to Mary. A big shout out to Randy.
Mm.
A big shout out to Jella. I
Who
didn't
take
get
on the
that.
man
A
go
big
to
shout out
radio
to
56?
Michael. A big
Okay.
shout out to
Mm. Mm.
Ashley. A big shout out to Jackson. Please let's drop our names back to back. I give you a shout
Mm.
and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, friends. A big shout out to Diana. A big shout out to Lenny. A big shout out to Mohammed.
Uh,
A big shout out to
yeah.
Camo. A big shout out to
Yeah.
Liz. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to Next. Shout out to Prishna Kia. Shout out to
Mm.
Mokhtar. I'm
Mm.
trying, guys. I'm trying. We have amazing names here. A big shout out to Gabriella. A big shout out to Keela. A big shout out to
Uh,
Alex.
mm.
Guys, let's go. Let's take the like up to 70. Thank you for your
Auto
support. Let's go, guys. A big
auto le power face les gars et va mieux.
shout out to William. A big shout out to
Okay.
Happy. A big shout out to
Mm. Mm.
Chloe. Guys, let's go like and sub. Thank you so much. Let's go, 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 go. A big shout out to
Mm.
Yasmin. Let's go, go, go,
Mm.
go, go. A big shout out to Maddie. Let's go, 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 go.
Mm.
Eight. Okay. A big shout out to Orse. A big shout out to
Okay.
Gracie. A big shout out to
No wala.
Tyra. A big shout out to
All right, we'll see
Marcin.
later.
A
Yeah.
big shout out to Astro. A big shout out to Madison. A big shout out to Jordan. A big shout out to Marcin. A big shout out to Baba Azam. A big shout out to Yasmin. Yeah, please put down your name, guys. Please don't write too much. Don't write too much. I just need your name. That's all. Okay? Just your names. Okay? A big shout out to Queen. A big shout out to Andrew. A big shout out to Alice. Water. A,
What do you think
a
you
big
do
shout
now?
out to Nico. A big shout out to Queen. A big shout out to Aliyah. You slay. Thank you. You slay too. A big shout out to Anita. A big shout out to Zach. Happy birthday to you. A big shout out to Anastasia. A big shout out to Willow. A big shout out to Arid. A big shout out to Alice. A big shout out to Bridget. Shout out to Azo. A big shout out to Lilo. Shout out to Marcin. Shout out to Kiki. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Mother. Shout out to Munku Sonoki. Please let's go like and sub. Can we please take the like up to 70? You are laughing. A big shout out to Moripe. A big shout out to Jackson. A big shout out to Jessie. A big shout out to Sheena Mahiru. A big shout out to Penny. A big shout out to Ara. A big shout out to Kamsi. A big shout out to Alisa. Guys, let's go. Can we take the like up to 70? Nobody's even tapping for me. I don't even have any bestie, like somebody that will just be there to do it. Anyways, let's keep going. I know one day God will send somebody for me to do it for me. Anyways, let's carry on. A big shout out to Aruka Sakuri. A big shout out to Maya. A big shout out to Lily. A big shout out to Jackson. Amen. Thank you. A big shout out to Ruby. A big shout out to Aruka Sakura. A big shout out to Fatiku. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Don't worry. Put your name. Just leave your name the way it is. Don't frame it. Don't abbreviate it. I will pronounce it the way I see it. But don't be offended if it's not pronounced the right way. Hmm? Especially the native names and all of that. Just put it like that. I will try my best. You know I'm trying. You know I'm trying. So let's go. A big shout out to Bree. A big shout out to Nella. A big shout out to Luna. A big shout out to Yunokashiku. Nokashiki. A big shout out to let's go Collins. A big shout out to Regan. A big shout out to Paulina. A big shout out to Anomosha. A big shout out to Sammy. A big shout out to Maya. A big shout out to Mona. Manon. A big shout out to Alexia. A big shout out to Hallie. A big shout out to Mano. A big shout out to Azhar. Guys, I want to say a big thank you to everyone that have been supporting me, especially on the live stream and on my content videos. Yeah, because I do some other content as well. So I post videos. So yeah, I see your comment. I see your like. Yeah, I want to say a very big thank you to you. Yeah, it shouldn't just end on the live stream. Always visit my page if you want to watch cartoon on your YouTube or you want to do anything on YouTube. The first thing you need to do is visit Kiki Air and Lifestyle channel. Yeah, you love her so much, isn't it? Visit our channel. look at her videos, give her a thumbs up, give her your support, your endless support, okay? And give her a comment, lovely comment. Thank you, guys. A big shout out to Blue. A big shout out to Emily. Probably I'll start acting movie, like all those short clip, like movie, because I also love acting, but I don't know. I'm just kidding. I don't know. But if it comes, fine. If it doesn't, I do something that is how will I put it? I'm comfortable doing, you know, as at now. A big shout out to Heaven. A big shout out to Futa Kajiyama. A big shout out to Mema. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Albania. Oh, from Ajay. How are you, Ajay? Nice to meet you. You're welcome. Please like and subscribe. Big shout out to Joanna. A big shout out to Chloe. I don't know why Cleo. Either I say Chloe today, tomorrow Cleo. It's just always, I always just, jam that name. As in, sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't get it. I don't know why. A big shout out to Ines. A big shout out to Shido Kisaki. I have wonderful people here this evening. Wonderful viewers this evening. Can you hear their names? Can you hear those names? Beautiful names. A big shout out to Safira. A big shout out to Layla. A big shout out to Hallies. Yeah, a big shout out to Samantha. Samantha, you subscribed long ago, so I know you. A big shout out to Ara. A big shout out to Hallies. A big shout out to Ariadne. A big shout out to Kali. A big shout out to Brooklyn. A big shout out to Jassy. A big shout out to Apahano. A big shout out to Kazumu Kahara. A big shout out to Mila. A big shout out to LJ. A big shout out to Simrat. Lovely. A big shout out to Mila. Shout out to Ariadne. A big shout out to Amelie. A big shout out to Iman. A big shout out to Hapa. Yeah, people keep asking me, do you know Stray Kids? Do you know Ketseye? Why is it just both of them? Why? Do you know Stray Kids? Do you know Ketseye? Always on the live stream. Can't you mention other people's name? Like, there are other people, I don't know why probably the fans are more. Do you know Stray Kids? Do you know Ketseye? Do you know Stray Kids? I said, I know them. They are lovely. Mention Westlife. Mention other people that are still, struggling to be there. I said, I don't understand. I don't know if it's just me. I know them. I don't know. Yes, I know them, but there are other bands. We have K-pop Demon Hunter. Like, people don't talk about them. Hmm? Somebody say calm down. Okay, I'm calming down. I'm not upset, but it's like probably they own YouTube. Probably they have more fans on YouTube because any live stream is always on them, always on Stray Kids or yeah. So I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm just saying. Probably I don't know. Probably it's just my live stream. Someone said I look like Mano. Yeah, probably that is why they are asking. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just kind of like inquisitive, like asking. I just want to know why. But I'm not angry. I'm not angry at all. It's a good thing. Yeah, let's go. I know 6 7. A big shout out to Silas. Yeah, Stray Kids. I know them. Oh my days. They are cute and they sing very well. A big shout out to Maddie Lostora. A big shout out to Bill Hughes. I have my names. It's only 2 letters. A big shout out to Ivy. Let's go. A big shout out to Alamai. A big shout out to Raha. Yeah, Ketseye. A big shout out to Woody. A big shout out to Sissy. And please, can somebody tell me where are they from? Ketseye band. They are what, as in, what part of the world are they from? Yeah, let's talk about Ketseye first before I go to Stray Kids. What part of the world are they from? Okay, let's go. A big shout out to Alana. A big shout out to Jada. A big shout out to Great. A big shout out to Nida. A big shout out to Amelia. A big shout out to Lawrence. A big shout out to Raha. Those people that are asking me if I know them, now they are not responding. They don't even know where they are from. They don't know their country. But you're asking me if I know them. Ah, it is well. God help me. A big shout out to Anissa. A big shout out to Inese. A big shout out to Terali. A big shout out to Mavis. A big shout out to Amelia. Let's go. A big shout out to Khadija. Big shout out to Mikael. Shout out to Shirley. Shout out to Poppy. Shout out to Layla. You're back. Welcome back. A big shout out to Santa. You're welcome. A big shout out to Pava Preet. A big shout out to Nabiha. Guys, can we take the like up to 90, please? A big shout out to Leila. A big shout out to Nabia. Guys, please let's go take the like up to 90. Yeah, I want to really say a very big thank you to that beautiful soul that has been tapping non-stop. Yeah, sorry I didn't talk about it since. Thank you. Oh, yeah, you just said it. Spamming hearts. Joshua, thank you so much, Joshua. Thank you so, so, so much. You are God sent. I literally prayed for it and God answered through you. Thank you. A big shout out to Shari. A big shout out to Shelly. Oh, that's a lot of names. Let me calm down and say that. A big shout out to Shelly. A big shout out to Well. A big shout out to Crelly and Ellie. I just hope I got them. A big shout out to Lola. I will catch up here. Okay, thank you so much. My contact is on my profile, so you can go on my bio. You see the contact. Yeah. Pavan, yeah. Please, you can go on my bio. You see the contact there. When I get it, I will let you know. Okay. A big shout out to Helly. A big shout out to Sacha. Okay, I sent it. Yeah, please confirm. Percy said he sent something. Pava. So I want to confirm to see if what you have sent is true or you just lied. Till then, let's see. You sent one. You sent 1,000 by accident. Let's see. I'm waiting. Somebody's confirming it. Don't worry. Just hold on. A big shout out to Zach. A big shout out to Helly. A big shout out to Hella. So Pavan, yeah, you lied. Yeah, you lied, and that is not accepted on this channel. You don't come here to frame stories up and say you donated this and that. That's not true. There are people here watching and they think it is real or something. Yeah, you didn't do that. You just lied and it has been confirmed. No, nothing dropped. So if you do that again, I will take you off. I mean it. I'm firm with it. You don't come up here and start lying. I'm not asking you for anything. But if you want to do it, it's fine. Don't come here and cook up stories. We are not here to joke or play. So if you do it, I'll take you off. Yeah, I'm from Indian. Yeah, yeah. If you are from Indian, please, you need to be, please be guided. Yeah. A big shout out to Poppy. A big shout out to Finn. A big shout out to Raya. A big shout out to Ima Rose. A big shout out to Kiki. A big shout out to Anisha. A big shout out to Kalicia. A big shout out to Ima Masin. A big shout out to Alice. A big shout out to Anisha. A big shout out to Avari. You're so kind. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Helly. A big shout out to Sava. A big shout out to Tima. A big shout out to Ima. A big shout out to Let's Go Guys. You are beautiful. Thank you so much. Not when I'm not when I'm upset. Oh my god. A big shout out to Ava. A big shout out to Cole. A big shout out to Jomana. A big shout out to Maya. A big shout out to Melody. Would you like, you see somebody now is saying, would you like £10? Please, if you want to do anything, you know where to go to. I'm not being rude here, please. I don't like it when, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday I went live and somebody did the same thing. So because I didn't get access to the account, so I didn't know if that happened. And I was praying for the person, I was thanking the person, like, genuinely saying thank you, I'm grateful, blah 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 blah. And at the end of the day, when I checked at the end of the life, nothing like that happened. So I don't know if the prayer will go to him or is a curse. So please, let's be guided. It does not make any sense. I won't even talk about it again. Anything I see on the comment section concerning, if I see any money, I will just skip till I confirm it. A big shout out to, sorry, that's okay. No, but yeah, it's like you're messing my emotions off, as in you're messing me around. It's not fair. Okay. I was even almost crying that day when the person told me. I was almost crying, as in I was emotional. But at the end, nothing. Oh my god. So, okay, let's go, guys. A big shout out to Jumana. A big shout out to Adesin. Okay, you guys don't want me to express myself. You don't want me to express. I'm just only expressing myself, how I'm feeling about it. Everybody have freedom to, to express how they feel. So I'm just telling you, it's not right. I don't feel okay when such happens. So you take it like that. A big shout out to Emily. A big shout out to Rihanna. Tava for the last time. Please, I don't want to see money again. Please, I'm begging now. As I take you off, you are distracting the comment section. A big shout out to Remy. A big shout out to Hapa. A big shout out to Tony. A big shout out to Nisa. A big shout out to Lee. A big shout out to Aksa. A big shout out to Tim Buchi Agbo. Nice to meet you. Please like and subscribe. Guys, let's take the like up to 90. Let's take the like up to 90. Let's go. The likes up to 90, please. A big shout out to Yahoo. A big shout out to Nico. A big shout out to Hannah. A big shout out to Nova. Shout out to Paige. Shout out to Usman. Shout out to Maddox. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Chris. Shout out to Shady. Shout out to Harley. Shout out to Meram. Shout out to Sienna. Shout out to Evie. Shout out to Bristol. A big shout out to Olivia. A big shout out to Christopher. Shout out to Octavia. Shout out to Delicia. Guys, let's take the like up to 100. Let's go, 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 go. Please, let's like and subscribe. We shouldn't forget that. Yeah, thank you so much. Please, let's go like and subscribe. A big shout out to Asa. A big shout out to Sophia. A big shout out to Ayumi. Guys, put your name back to back. And if I've not called your name, yeah, you just keep putting it. I will see it. Sorry for the distraction. Yeah, I don't mean to. Yeah, sometimes I just need to speak up so that we'll all be, some persons will be guided. Yeah, because I read the comment section. So when I see it and anything trigger me, I need to talk about it. And if the person don't stop, I have to take the person, off. Because I don't like having I need to share up, But when I see any hate speech or whatever, I just take the person off. Okay. A big shout out to Eslim. A big shout out to Ray. A big shout out to Bella. A big shout out to Harry. Why am I seeing Bella? Bella. Thank you. Yeah, she's putting her name out there, so I'll keep calling her often because I'll call you when I see your name. Okay. A big shout out to Harry. A big shout out to Maka. A big shout out to Avi. A big shout out to Kelly. A big shout out to Aya. A big shout out to Pearl. A big shout out to Jeff. A big shout out to Bishop. A big shout out to Asha. A big shout out to Maria. I love your hair. Thank you. A big shout out to Lily. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Francisca. A big shout out to Yaya. Oh, a big shout out to Hapa. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Mine. A big shout out to Hello. A big shout out to Ash. Guys, let's go like and subscribe. Let's go, 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 go. Let's go, 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 go. Yeah, let's go. I have to go now. Oh, I'll miss you. But I'll always see you because I stream every day. So I'll always see you every day, okay? Thank you. Anytime you come, I'll see you. A big shout out to you. A big shout out to Lexi. A big shout out to Urata. A big shout out to Gabriela. A big shout out to Queen. A big shout out to Isenia. Is it every yeah, it's every day. I stream every day. Yeah, but no specific time, please. Yeah, it's not fixed yet. Yeah, because I can be here and there. So anytime I have little chance, little time, I just come. Yeah, quickly. So you can turn on your notification bell or button so that when I come live, you'll be notified that I'm live. I think that's the best way. Yeah, you can go about it. A big shout out to Raya. A big shout out to Kai. A big shout out to Hiding. A big shout out to Raya. Shout out to Ife. Kiki, do you remember me? Of course, yes. A big shout out to Maya. Are you just coming, Maya? Why have I not been seeing you since? And we are almost 1 hour into this life. Maya, explain yourself. A big shout out to Toby. A big shout out to Neely. La. Maya says sorry. No, you don't need to be sorry. You might be busy, so I just training. Okay, I said it. Thank you so much. I trust you. A big shout out to Tom. A big shout out to Ollie. A big shout out to Alisa. A big shout out to Tide. A big shout out to Sophie. Sophio. A big shout out to Anna. A big shout out to Cara. A big shout out to Arabella. From Swedish. Thank you. You're welcome. All the way from Sweden. Nice to meet you. A big shout out to Massey. Arabella, thank you so much. A big shout out to Ariana. A big shout out to Sophia. You are beautiful no matter what anyone tells me. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. But yeah, it's vice versa, you know. It's vice versa. No matter what anyone says to you, negative thing about you, just know you are amazing. Okay? And you are lovely. So regardless. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Toby. A big shout out to Sky. A big shout out to Rosa. I know. A big shout out to Really. A big shout out to Lulu. A big shout out to Troy. A big shout out to Oh, you're leaving, Maya. Okay, that's fine. Enjoy your evening. Okay, I think you're tired now, so yeah, you need some rest. A big shout out to Alani. Guys, please let's go like and subscribe. Thank you so much. This Kiki and Lifestyle channel where we make our day great and our evening superb by putting down your name and giving you a shout out. What did you say about your birthday again? A big shout out to Jake. I love you too, Maya. Love you so much. Thank you. A big shout out to Chloe. A big shout out to Ava. A big shout out to Bilan. A big shout out to Guyana. A big shout out to Aliyah. A big shout out to Ima. I know you. A big shout out to Alan. A big shout out to Halan. A big shout out to Ari. Shout out to Max. Shout out to Fryer. Shout out to C. Henista. Shout out to Darcy. Thank you so much for liking. A big shout out to Cam. Please, if you have not liked, you're just joining. If you have not subscribed as well, please let's go like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Pride. This your tax not even they get in this thing. Not even the pity for person. A big shout out to Maya. A big shout out to Neil. I'm just trying to pronounce it right. I know I didn't get it. You can help me as well. A big shout out to Maxwell. A big shout out to Lila. A big shout out to Ella. A big shout out to Choni. A big shout out to Kenzie. A big shout out to Camille. A big shout out to Henny Star. Hello, it's me. A big shout out to Lana. A big shout out to Evie. Guys, please let's go like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Don't forget to tell your friends. Don't forget to tell um your neighbor. I love you so much. I love you too. Thank you. Big shout out to Robbie. A big shout out to Zaki. A big shout out to Fiorella. A big shout out Abarit. A big shout out to Hella. A big shout out to Loretta. Big shout out to Toby. Somebody said you are so bad. Why am I bad? Hmm. I want to know it though. A big shout out to Amira. Bad giving people a shout out that is making them happy. So I want to know. A big shout out to Mila. A big shout out to Daniel. Oh, I love you too, Daniel. Thank you so much. A big shout out to Retta. A big shout out to Eda Fred. Where have you been? Nice to meet you again. I won't read out that comment. You said don't listen to her. I won't listen to her. Thank you. A big shout out to Rita. A big shout out to Alisa. A big shout out to Brody. A big shout out to Fifi. A big shout out to Johnny. All right, I understand, Eda Fred. Yeah, I'm just asking. I know there should be something. A big shout out to Maya. I know people that don't like missing the live stream, so whenever I see them, I always ask what happened. You know what's going on. Yeah, Maya came in lately, and yeah, I know she's always on the live stream. So I asked her, and she said she went for training, which is fair enough. And she's tired now. She just wants to rest. So I know people that comes to this live stream back to back to support, positive vibes all the way. And I don't forget them. Yeah, they literally stores on my head. So thank you. A big shout out to Jenny. A big shout out to I remember you, Marigo. A big shout out to Slum Please. A big shout out to Robbie. Guys, let's go like and subscribe A big shout out to Remy. A big shout out to Maya. A big shout out to Cam. I love your beats. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, they're up. They're so yeah, they look gorgeous. I love it as well. A big shout out to Reeds. A big shout out to Zed. Just Zed. A big shout out to Christine. A big shout out to Kiki. My birthday today. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Johnny. Happy birthday to you. I wish you happy birthday and best wishes. A big shout out to Anissa. A big shout out to Landy. Yeah, my beads, I got them from, yeah, I got them online. Yeah, what is it? Shane? Is it Shane? I think we bought it from Shane Pride. The beads. Yeah, it's gotten from Shane. I got them from Shane online. A big shout out to Jesslyn. A big shout out to Elena. A big shout out to Jade. I'm struggling with that name. Help me. A big shout out to Ruby. A big shout out to Evelyn. A big shout out to Lauren. A big shout out to Grace. A big shout out to Sheila. Oh, I have a call. My mom, guys. My mom. Please let's go like and subscribe. Just give me 1 minute, okay? 1 minute, please, guys. Yeah, later. Okay, bye. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, that's my mama. Yeah, that's my mom. Yeah, a big shout out to Scarlett. A big shout out to David. A big shout out to Ariana Mackenzie. A big shout out to Kaylan. A big shout out to Eddie. A big shout out to Harper. A big shout out to Marius. Shout out to Dusty. You're welcome. A big shout out to Taboka. A big shout out to Mina. A big shout out to Zion. Shout out to Benson Bone. Shout out to Mastin. No, I can't see your comment, Isla. A big shout out to Isla. A big shout out to your sister. Yeah, you can do. A big shout out to Zoe. Guys, please let's go like and subscribe. Can we take the like up to 30, please? A big shout out to Mystic. Shout out to Madeline H. A big shout out to Jensen. Oh, you're welcome, Isla. A big shout out to Aura. Big shout out to Sabrina. A big shout out to Henny. Big shout out to Maria. Shout out to Madeline Hitchman. Yeah, drop your name, your bro. Yeah, you can. I can do. I love your hair. Thank you so much, Emily. Oh, why you've not been? Itzla. Yeah, Itzla. Hope you're okay. A big shout out to Luna. A big shout out to Tawada. A big shout out to Zoya. Isla, hope you're okay. As in, you said you've not been on my live stream for some days now. Yeah, I'm just asking if you're fine. If there's hope, there's no problem. Yeah. A big shout out to Justice. You're my a big fan. Maddie, I know you're my big fan. Bless you, my darling. A big shout out to Phoenix. A big shout out to Lila and Nora. A big shout out to Kingsley. A big shout out to Naomi. Shout out to my biggest fan, Maddie Osman. A big shout out to Brianna. A big shout out to Honesty. A big shout out to Maisha Hishan. A big shout out to Nessa. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Mike, your lovely brother. Shout out to Kami. Shout out to Moses. Shout out to Helen. Shout out to Ima. Yeah, please drop your name again. I don't, if I skip you, just do it again, okay? Till I get it. We have a lot of names on the comment section, so my eyes might not pick all at once. So just keep putting your name out there. I will get it, okay? Mm. A big shout out to Bree. A big shout out to Madeline. A big shout out to Ima. A big shout out to Helene. A big shout out to Brianna. A big shout out to Maisha Hishan. A big shout out to Ruhi. A big shout out to Mandeline, my biggest fan. Shout out to Karina. Shout out to Kami. Shout out to Mahisha. Shout out to Doni. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Maisha. Shout out to Brian. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Madeline. Shout out to Leila. Shout out to Sarah. Guys, please let's go like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Yeah, please let's go like and subscribe. Yeah, let's take 10 seconds to like and subscribe for me. Thank you. Guys, I'm waiting just 10 seconds to like and sub. Then we carry on. Please let's like and sub. Then we can carry on. Can we take the like up to 30? A big shout out to Nila. A big shout out to Adaline. Shout out to Samia. Shout out to Susanna. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Susanna. Shout out to Sabine. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Hannes. Shout out to Tilly. Shout out to JJ. Shout out to Ruenda. Hello, Auntie, I'm back. Welcome back, Mariam. Hope you're good. Shout out to Sina. A big shout out to Lorenzo. A big shout out to Latia. Welcome back, my darling. Nice to meet you. Welcome back. Hope you're good. How are you? Yeah, how are you, lovely? Shout out to Malisa. Malisa, how are you? Hope you're good. Um, oh, thank you so much. You've been spamming. Thank you. I saw that. Thank you so much. Big shout out to Sabine for spamming. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Big shout out to Alice. A big shout out to Mohammed. A big shout out to Grace. A big shout out to Marionette. A big shout out to Messiah Green. Shout out to Mrs. Essay. Shout out to Sage. Oh, Sage, you're welcome. Nice to meet you again. Guys, can we go like and subscribe? Thank you so much. Shout out to Kai. Shout out to Awoke. A big shout out to Kiza. A big shout out to Glovani. Oh, shout out to Madeline. You've been watching since I started. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. A big shout out to Akam and Eddie. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Giovanni. Shout out to Gabo. Shout out to Kiki. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Jim Lee. You're my favorite. Thank you so much, Maddie. Guys, drop your name. I'll give you a shout out, okay? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. A big shout out to Jamie. A big shout out to Adrian. A big shout out to Courtney. Shout out to Easy. Shout out to Nadia. Shout out to Peter Griffey. Let's go, guys. Can we tap? Please tap for me. Tap, 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 tap. Shout out to Luke. A big shout out to Ligman. A big shout out to NYX. A big shout out to Kihana. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Chuk Campo. Shout out to Maka. Shout out to Abiba. A big shout out to Violet. A big shout out to Jake. A big shout out to Hami. Shout out to Midi. Shout out to Poppy. Shout out to Chukamso. Shout out to Lucky. Shout out to Ima. Shout out to Francis. Shout out to Bills. Shout out to Maddie. Guys, let's go. Please like and subscribe. It's like the life is glitching. Yeah, is it glitching, guys? Thank you. You made my day. You're welcome. A big shout out to Violet. A big shout out to Nora. A big shout out to Asian. A big shout out to Ligmas. A big shout out to Lulu. A big shout out to Show. Shout out to Anika. Shout out to Nora. Thank you so much. Shout out to Poppy. Guys, I want to end the live and I'll start again. It's like it is glitching and I don't know. So I'll end it. Guys, please follow so that you can see me again.